It's like just finding out. So it's just really cool. I went to the Marriott. That was really cool. I don't know. To me, Devin, it's a symbol of great things to come in Waco. That's why I don't know how you felt when you started there, but how did you feel when you actually got into that day when you started seeing people come in, start seeing very influential people come in that was part of Marriott? Like, how did you feel? Like, oh man, like this is the moment. Like, how did you feel?
For the most part, I was pretty much content with seeing whoever walked through the door. To me, it wasn't about the people, it was about me being able to express myself to them. It wouldn't matter if they were movie stars, princes, or somebody who just came in off the street. I treat everyone with respect and I express myself through my cuisine. So I don't really feel that it's necessary to kind of have that class mentality for my cuisine. It's
Okay.
more of I just like to cook for everyone and to enjoy what I call the true foundation of culinary, the energy behind it.
Okay, nice, nice. What? I mean, heck, man, I gotta ask. I mean, when did you start realizing, like, oh my gosh, like this is something I want to get into?
Surprisingly, I started very, very young, so I've been in the culinary industry for around 14 odd years, but I've really been in the industry about 26 years. So I started when I was probably 6 years old, cooking in my family kitchen and also helping out my mom and dad at restaurants. My mom was a waitress for many years, my dad was a cook for a while, and just was part of the family. It was something that I grew up in. My folks desperately tried to plead me not to go into culinary. Anything else, they said. And literally anything else, but
Like,
just the drive behind it, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. I fell in love with it, and that's how I just started my journey.
I knew it was something when I saw you. Like, I went to a couple events before, and very beautiful layout with chefs there as well. And I don't know, it caught my eye. Like, I saw that you were truly entwined with what you're making, like as if it was your second arm, essentially, where you're like, okay, this is what I made. Almost like an artist describing his paintings. I'm like, oh my gosh! So, kudos to Marriott to bring you on as a team asset there. So, but so what? 16 years ago. So you were, or you said 26 years ago. So how old are you now then? You're
Old enough.
old enough. Because I don't know why I'm noticing people in their mid 30s. Again, this is my fun little observation of what I went through in life. Some reason things click after or about your mid 30s. I don't know why. I don't know what was the reason for. Like, something in their life, well, in our life, because it clicked with me. In fact, this little business I have, it clicked more in my mid 30s, but I always had an idea of it for close to a decade, but just stewing on the idea. But I guess when you get one small chance, you're like, you know what, like the dream becomes more reality. So I was just kind of curious, when was that? So I'm assuming, or you mentioned, at a very young age you got into it. What was your first job that you said, you know what, this is not exactly what I want, but it opened the door to more possibilities? What was that first job or first gig, first chance someone took on you? What one?
So actually, it was being able to cook in my home ec classes in high school.
Yeah.
Something I was very geared towards learning. I was pretty much one of only two guys in the entire class for a woman, so
Oh my gosh.
that was always a really positive aspect of it.
I don't get it. So it was mostly females then?
Mhm.
I don't get it either.
And I could cook every single one of them.
Nice, nice.
Not to say anything bad about them. It's just.
It is
when
interesting. So I'm come from a Mexican background, and traditionally speaking, it is very formal for the woman to provide the cooking at home. But there's a funny little joke, underground joke, where all the Mexican restaurants, all of them are men, the cooks. So it's just ironic where, we say we're great cooks and yet we don't portray it at home. But I feel like it's a missing gem. It'll be a win-win. The women will love us more and we get to showcase our wonderful cuisine. But yeah, that's a fun mystery I always have. But that is neat. So you did very well in that home ec class. Man.
But I just grew up in restaurants, so it was just a natural fit for me.
Yeah.
I was cooking full meals from the time I was 6, 7 years old. Being able to do that was just inspiring to me. It's something about the raw energy of taking ingredients, stuff naturally from nature, and using an element like fire to actually alter them and transform them into something that's unique but also life-giving, is how I feel about it.
So, you remind me of a great movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's called Like Water for Chocolate, or Like Water with Chocolate, one of them. It's a Hispanic movie. 85% of it's in Spanish, but it has some English dialogue there. Have you heard of it or no? It's
Can't say I have.
late 90s. No popular actor, but it was a good movie. There's this one where it's a great background story, but kind of an old tradition Mexican back in I want to say it was late 1800s. So it was the traditions and customs were different, but so the storyline was very interesting. But there's a scene in there where she was, what do you call it? It's basically forbidden love type movie. So she was supposed to, she was the oldest daughter, and she was in love with this man, but the man has to be married to the youngest daughter. It was very weird customs, but all in all, she was in love with this man, and they couldn't show their love. And what's worse was he had to court her sister. So she sees him all the time. It's so sad. And they were making a big feast, and she was one of the main cooks for the two families, and she felt so much love for this man that, again, I don't know if it was true or not, but it was a beautiful poetic theme where the love transformed into the food, and they made kind of like a small humorous part where everyone went home, kissing their partner and hugging their partner and just loving their partner. And it just made me think, I remember watching it when I was younger, and it didn't have no bad scenes or anything, but it showed like the love came into each and every one that consumed her food. And, when you're 15, I didn't care. It was just a movie I watched. It was cool. Had Spanish words. I liked it. But then I watched it again as a husband and a father recently. Like, good Lord. And it reminds me of what you said, like, just simple ingredients and then mixed with fire. I don't know how it is, but it has some type of attraction to me that I cannot explain. Like, I don't know. To me, yeah, I would love to learn the science behind it, how it's correlated to loving someone, but at the highest level. So as you grow more into your craft, you become almost in love with your craft. Like, it sounded like you were going that route, but am I crazy? Like, am I just thinking weird? Like, what? Well, what's your interpretation on truly enjoying your craft to the point where, again, there's many levels of love, but like a new type of love? Like, yeah, what's your take on that?
Definitely, the language of love is sometimes food, but to me, food is more than that. It's an art, it's a science, it's a passion, it is energy. Without it, we cease to exist. So, to me, it's both something that is very noble, but also something that needs to be respected. I love cuisine. I love to. It sounds kind of crazy, but when I think of a new dish or I come up with something, I don't just rely on what I've done before or traditional recipes. I think about the ingredient itself. I listen to it and I see what it wants to do. I'm not the one preparing the dish, it's telling me what to do and how to best express itself through me.
You almost comes to mind. You're an instrument almost, and what do you call it? The conductor, I think it is. The conductor is a food and is almost guiding you, but you still have, you still have the instrument. You still have the quote unquote tangible item to create it, but you're guided. Man, that's so cool. So one thing, I've been married for 8.5 years. Well, actually 9. Man, times a year flies by. 4 beautiful kids, and whenever we do like an anniversary or think deeply about our 11 years of knowing each other and almost 9 years of marriage. I don't know why, but I was doing a slideshow of, I'm sure you have an iPhone. You have everything saved on an iPhone. That's for us. So I was collecting all the photos and videos, and as I'm editing it, I'm like, there are a lot of plate food and dish food pictures that I've taken, and I feel like, how do I describe it? Like, I feel like we expressed each other with love through those dishes. And I'm not talking about like we went out every day. No, these were home cooked meals. And I don't know, like something about it. I know you said the respect part of it. I don't know. I feel like the respect part is going down. And whenever I go to restaurants, whenever I go, heck, I did DoorDash, so I remember going a lot. And as you see the same people, you chat with them, and they see me, I see them, and you see their way of doing it. And the craft is not there. It's a job. Hey, it's pay me whatever. The servers, they get paid whatever. And these are, I would like to say nice restaurants, not high end, but nice restaurants. I won't name any, but restaurants that you think are great, but they're just the beauty, the respect is not there. What do you see that in your line of work? Because I could imagine the level of expertise, the level of patience that you need to have in your craft and what you represent with your hotel that you're working with. How does that make you feel when you see that type of level not being to that standard? What was?
So, I have two kind of thoughts on that. One is thinking about it in terms of modern agriculture and modern cuisine. I prefer to look back in history and think of things that were more, how do I say it, not necessarily better, but more simple, more in tune with what the actual source of culinary and the true nature of food came from. They didn't have supermarkets. They had to grow their own food. They had to make their own breads. They had to do their own items because it was not a convenience to them. It was a way of life. They respected it because it gave back to them. So in turn, they respected it to return it. Nowadays, people think that food just comes from a grocery store. I've actually had people say, well, I've asked some of my cooks, so where did that corn come from? What do you mean? It came from the grocery store. And what I'm talking about is, where did the farm come from? Who was the farmer's name? I don't know. It's disrespectful to me because it's like we're so separated from where food actually comes from and the true nature of where it develops its true energy and its source. And we've become this monopolized culture on just mass production that we've forgotten the art's history and the craft behind it. And that's why several years ago I really got into the primitive hunting and foraging.
Okay.
It was something I've desperately wanted to learn and something that I've been developing slowly over the last few years, learning new things, trying different items because I wanted to get more in touch with natural foods, with the true nature of cuisine, not looking at this mass-produced, overly complicated item, but just looking at the simple and rustic in terms of how can I find it, how can I respect it enough to not only develop it, but kind of make it stand out in a world where convenience is all the rage.
So you came to the right state then when you find the hunting and natural part. So I'm from Ohio. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I was from Northern California, but we moved around quite a bit, 8 different states here and there growing up. We moved back to Northern California. I finished out my degrees there, so I have an associate's in culinary arts and a bachelor's in hospitality management.
Wonderful.
And those took me a long time to get. But I was able to kind of develop myself there, and it's a good melting pot of different cultures and cuisines, so I was able to experience and learn a lot more. But it just came a time when, unfortunately, the atmosphere, the culture, the climate was, how do I say this, not a right fit for me anymore.
Yeah, you're one of millions in any industry of that. So,
Yeah, I apologize in advance for that.
Was that?
So I apologize in advance for that.
No, to the contrary, like what I'm seeing here is, we always joke about it because I'm the same way, but I didn't come from California, I'm from Ohio. But yeah, I was the same product, if you will. I came because of just better opportunities, but I don't know. It grows on you. Texas grows on you, especially here in Waco. It's just a beautiful state overall, and then of course Waco itself is a beautiful city. And what I like to chat when you mention the hunting part, so that's what attracted me first. So I guess I was uneducated about the hunting, the firearms, all this stuff, and wasn't, I didn't disagree with them, but I just wasn't knowledgeable on it. And then one of my good friends, I still friends with now, his first invite was to invite me to his ranch so we can shoot some hogs. And it didn't click to me. I'm like, what? like in my whole mind, I remember my dad had a firearm when I was little, and he never used it, but he always knew he had it tucked away, and he just never thought of it. And here I am, just out of college, and the guy mentioned that, and it just made me think more. I'm like, okay, well, why is he saying this as if it's a gesture, like giving me a welcoming gift? I didn't understand that. And then when I learned more about chatting with him that day, very similar to what you were saying, where he was like, no, when we kill these hogs, that's our dinner for the next 6 months. And I'm like, at first, like, when you see the blood, when you see everything, you're like, good Lord. But then once you get past that human shock, you almost come to the point where like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like I like bacon, and it's not from the restaurant. or is not from the grocery store, like the corn counting question you had, where I don't know, it just started, and that was 12 years ago. So now I feel like we graduated in Belton, Texas. So are you familiar with Belton? I know you've been here a couple months, but it's 30 miles north of here, so right on 35. But we used to reside there, my family and I, and they, good Lord, Devin, there was a farmer, 80-year-old farmer. He was a physician, not a country guy at all, but he turned more into the health part of it, and he learned, he was a heart physician, and he was learning throughout his practice that, man, grass-fed beef, like true grass-fed, and then how you can work the soil itself. It changes the way the cow consumes it as well. And he just had us at hello. So now we've been about 2 years now where we purchase all our meat from him. He buys about 50 cows a year, and you know where the meat comes from, like that ranch, like you can see the cow. And he says, yeah, in due time, that we will process that animal. And when you first experience, like, have you ever been hunting? Have you?
Yes,
you tried it?
actually.
How's that for you?
When I was younger, my family was not really poor, but we didn't have a lot of money. So we lived in Colorado for about 10 years. Every year we'd go out and hunt some elk. That was our way of kind of surviving, and we would get about 3 elk a year, and that would feed us for a long time. We were able to process it for like 49 cents a pound back then. And being able to just be able to stock our freezers with that, we learned how to make do with it and how to cook with it, because it was not just a cheap source, but it was a natural source and a healthy source for us to sustain ourselves. And we always liked that. A few years ago, we got in California, my family got into gardening and growing our own and canning our own produce, and we just fell in love with it. We started off not knowing anything about this, but through research, through trial and error, we were able to grow and expand our pantry, our larder, into something that we could sustain ourselves. And a couple of years, we do like a couple hundred cans of produce. Peaches, we were surrounded by peach orchards.
Okay.
So we had a deal with our neighbors. We give them peach cobbler and they bring us all the free peaches we needed.
Good exchange.
But they just loved it, and so yeah, they always had extra peaches that would just rot on the ground. So we're like, please. And we would just turn them into canned goods. We would trade for them, barter with other family members. If somebody had some eggs or something, it was a way for us to not only sustain ourselves through gardening and canning, but also a way for us to create a new form of commerce. So not new, but for us it was new. But that trade, commerce kind of old mentality was something that we just had to learn.
Well, heck, I mean, isn't one of the oldest companies is a tea company? I'm trying to remember. When I was researching essentially the whole economic world and got into that fun stuff on YouTube and went a rabbit hole on that, and it reminded me of that, where spices were very, very big, like 400 or 500 years ago, or even further. And what is it if it's not one person saying to another, hey, give me something for that and I can give you something in return. It started out with that simple need, I guess, but I don't know, to me, I think that idea, like, I remember when on the religious side of it, you always think about, we always say thank you for the food and then I have little ones and they get bored of everything, so it's fun to keep them kind of focused on their religious studies, but I love it because they make you think rather than just going with the flow. They make you think, well, why do we say this? Why do we say that? And one thing came up with, you know, why do we say thank you for the food, Dad? Like why do we have to say that every time? And it got me. I'm like, let me try to say something other than because it's a good thing. Like, why is it a good thing? And I don't know, I think it's more cultivating it. You need sunlight, you need rain, all these things that we are so separated, like you said, we forget that we're in control but almost not. So we almost have to treat it with respect, you know, where it is a delicacy. But I don't know if you saw or heard in the French monarchy in the 1500s, it was considered a royalty sign that you saw an overset gentleman, because that means he had abundance of food. And how it just changed over time, where, you know, anyone can get anything now. You know, the processed food, you can get cheeseburger for $1, you know, and we're in 2024, you know, you think the price of a burger would go up, but I don't know, like, I'm big on bringing back, or is it keeping it sustained, the beauty of food, because you are unique. Again, haven't met many gentlemen like you that in the zone, in your area of expertise, while you're on, when I saw you, you saw the vibrance, or at least I saw the vibrance, and I'm like, man, like, this is exciting. What do you think how do you think that boredom didn't come to you yet? Because in every career, there's some level of boredom. You get tired of it. You get burnt out in the business world, I would say. You said 16 years, or no, I'm sorry, 26 years, right? Mm-hmm. I don't see any flame going down in you. So what's keeping it strong, the energy?
So something I learned when I was in culinary school that really stuck with me, one of my professors, who's also a chef, told me, and something that I've kept with me all this time, was when you stop moving, or when you stop learning, move on. And that's something that I really took to heart, because what they always were talking about would be cuisine and food and everything. It's not something that is stagnant, that it's going to be the same every day that you come in. Cuisine's always evolving. There's always a multitude of million ways to cook an egg. There's a million different ways to prepare something. And then everything is always evolving in the culinary industry every single day. So chasing that and trying to learn as much as you can live 1,000 years and you'll probably never know everything there is to know about culinary, because it's just something it's a living organism. It's a raw energy, and it's not something you can just capture in a bottle. So I can't really ever get bored with it, or at least I don't think I will. Because it's like trying to catch a shooting star to me. It's an impossible dream, but it's also something that's very exciting too.
Man, you just described a custom suit. It is so ironic. So coincidentally, is very, it almost rhymes in a way. The art of making a suit, you know, started with by hand, you know, and a mediocre machine as the time progressed. But the art of it now, you know, we're in 2024. There's so many ways to quote unquote cook an egg or make a jacket. It can be the cheapest thing, but as you learn more of it, you almost find it more exciting in a way. But to me, that, you know, not like giving up and say, oh, this is the perfect suit. I've never had a perfect suit yet. And I've tried, but I don't know, how do you describe it? Almost like the trying part is the joy. Like learning more is the joy, but still it's not easy. But going through it is crazy. I'm curious, what's your favorite? Well, two of them. I'm curious. what's your favorite um, traditional dish, or I guess not race, but culture? So, what type of culture food that you like the most to make? Whether it's like Asian, like what type of cuisine?
So my favorite cuisine would be French because it's the foundation for all modern day culinary.
Really? I did
Because
not know that.
it is something that has the highest level of technique. It is the foundation for all cooking, modern day cooking, but it's also the most stringent and hardest to master. It's something that's very unique in of itself, but also requires so much intricate knowledge and technical skills. A culinary term for everything. When I was at culinary school, I actually had a French instructor. She was quite a bit shorter than me, but she was tough as nails. And she was very, very passionate, and she would get on me a lot. But I took every class she had because she cared enough to explain something to me, to teach it to me, and to actually want to develop me. If I just went in there with an I'm the best and this is how it is attitude, she would have never helped me. But she knew that I was trying, and she knew that I wanted to succeed, so she was willing to go out of her way to help me, even if it was a little bit harsh sometimes. But
Right, yeah.
she was just amazing. She even taught me how to make my favorite dishes, croissants from scratch, and creme brulee, which I messed up the first time so bad. I couldn't make scrambled eggs.
Oh, yeah.
But through her and learning and being able to train me on it, I was actually able to make it one of my signature dishes. My creme brulees have been very, very popular. I even worked at one restaurant back home. We would sell maybe 2 a week.
Okay.
Not very popular. I would tweak the recipe a little bit, but what really made it stand out, we actually started taking them out to the table, torching them in front of the guest, which
Oh, yeah.
that was something that had never been done there
Yeah.
before.
The presentation, I could imagine it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I actually got in the newspaper for that, and it was something that was really awe-inspiring. It was one of my first chef positions, which I wouldn't even take the chef title at the time because I did not feel that I had earned it. So it was fresh out of culinary school. Our head chef up and disappears a month later,
Oh my gosh.
so I have to step into that role, but I don't get the pay or the title of it. So I'm having to,
Working triple.
but I loved it because I was able to finally be able to express myself without oversight or without kind of this like nagging, you can't do this, can't do that
Yeah.
sensation. I was able to just be open and free to express myself. And that really, I had some flops, I'm not gonna lie. There are a few recipes that I wish I had never thought of that would make my
What was
stomach
one?
turn.
I gotta know one.
I think I did a whipped ricotta cheesecake mousse, and it was good flavor and everything, but the texture of it made you think of like you're eating bath soaps.
Oh my goodness. I can imagine the reviews on that one. So.
Luckily, I only made that once.
Once, yeah. One and done. You learn and move on.
I also tried a peach cobbler flan. On my
Hold
foot.
on, what?
Yes.
Peach cobbler flan.
It was a disaster.
You were very creative. Yeah.
Yes.
Can imagine the texture of both combined. Interesting.
I used to have my parents be test tasters for a lot of my food, and then after that one, they're like, no more.
It reminds me of so my brother, he's unfortunately not with us anymore, but wonderful man, and he was in the restaurant equipment company. So he sold restaurant equipment to restaurants, and he moved from Ohio, where we're from, to the East Coast, so Connecticut, but he wasn't too far to go to New York, go to Boston, and if you want to talk about high-end cuisine, he was just the equipment coordinator, so he would sell the equipment and everything. But even at that level, like he's not even part of the restaurants, but how they opened their arms to him and let him do the taste testers. I remember he would come to me. It was like, man, and he tried to do his best at home, but the knowledge of it, the very little knowledge of just being friends, and he dealt with them personally, sous chefs, actual executive chefs, head chefs, and I got to see it from the brother level, so many levels down, but I even got the excitement out of him. And again, we would call him a layman in your industry, but I could imagine to that where the executive chef, where if a layman, just an employee, a good friend, captured that excitement, and I would be the taste tester of him, but he would show me different ways, of course, mistakes galore, but it just had a different taste. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like if he can capture this just by hearing it from a well-experienced gentleman, good Lord, how would it taste when you're actually at that restaurant? So it was always a fun mystery. I'm like, man, I wish I would have gone to those restaurants. But how do you do that? How do you make flour, water, yeast, and make it into a croissant? This beautiful piece of dough into something so magnificent and fluffy. That's my mystery. Like, I can try it at home on how you made little mistakes. That was all my resume. I made all this. So that's still a fun mystery to me. And what made you feel like, again, you didn't reach your top level, but you feel, okay, this is presentable? What comes in your mind to say, okay, this is a dish I can serve now? Where is that criteria? How do you play that in your head?
So the thing about a recipe and a dish is, it doesn't matter if it's the same exact ingredients, the same exact method, the same exact timing, temperatures, everything. No two people will ever make that recipe the same, because it's just something that's magical when you have this person being able to cook it. You could have somebody else cooking it right next to them, and they'll taste completely different.
Wow.
Because it's not something that's tangible. It's not something that's you're able to see and develop and to correspond to the different textures and things. You just have to be able to be in that moment. And that's why I say it's a living organism. It's not something you can capture in a moment. You can't describe or put on a picture what something tastes like.
Yeah, I tried with the slideshow. It doesn't feel the same. It's a memory, but yeah, like we long for that memory because we can't replicate it. Man, you just described, you just touched the hearts of the whole Mexican culture, because a small example, my mother, she made these type of enchiladas. We all make enchiladas. Everyone knows how to make their own style and everything. And my fun little quest in life, because she passed in 2011, and one of the fond memories is she made about 3 dishes that was so unique. One of them were enchiladas, and my little fun quest when I traveled to Texas and now live here, try to find it at restaurants. I can't find it, the taste. And then now I'm like, you know what, the best way to replicate it is to make it. I know how to make it. So I made it. Still, I still can't, yeah, it tastes almost the same, but something inside you almost like, I don't know how to describe it, but almost that whole experience, that, I love how you said respect, it keeps coming in my head, that respect of that time, you just can't bring back. And like I said, I think a lot of Mexican people specifically, they equate their loving memories in their lives with the ones they love that passed on via food. It's the most if you ask any Mexican person, what do you remember of abuela? What do you remember of your grandmother? They're gonna say, oh, well, I just remember she was in the kitchen making this XYZ, or at a festival or at a family get together, she made this big feast. It's and you can't replicate it. That's what sucks about it. Like it is so beautiful, but yeah, you have to respect that it's like once
In a lifetime. It's like a beautiful sadness. It's something we long for,
Oh man.
but we just can never complete it
Yeah.
because it's something that's that moment in time. It's something that's so delicate. And also touching on what you said about how they treated your brother in the coming to the restaurant like it was family. That's what being in a restaurant is. It's like having a second family. We treat everyone with respect. We show that we care about them because we have to live with these people sometimes more than our regular families.
Right, yeah.
And having that respect for our vendors, our producers, having respect for our customers. It's all about that. And if we can't respect ourselves enough to prepare the best quality meals for everyone, not just people coming in to pay for it, but people coming in to bring in our soaps, our stocks. We need them. We rely on them, and that's why whenever we have a chance, we always make sure to feed them or show that we appreciate them.
Yeah.
It's something that's very powerful. And how you're talking about like the sensory, I actually just did a little training with my guys this week. So one of my best things I learned how to do was spice identification. So we use our nose, our sight, and our sense of touch to identify different spices. This was something we did back in culinary school, and I just kept it with me. And just being able to kind of develop it, because there's so many different spices. There's so many different things that you can never be exposed to, that when you're exposed to them for the first time, you develop the memory of it, the sensory, the smell, the taste, all at the same time. So when you finally develop your palate and your senses enough, you're able to transform something because you say, oh, I know something that goes with this. I've had it before. It's something that's, you can develop those pairings and those flavors. It's something that, it's like a harmony in your head and in your heart. You feel something coming together that normally would be out of the ordinary, but when you put it all together and make it just shine, that's what's truly amazing about it. And yeah, it's just something powerful when you develop your senses about it. You like how you're saying the memory, the flavor, the smell, the taste.
Yeah.
You can't replicate.
The big one is the smell, the fragrance,
the aromatics.
yeah, like I remember coming home, and I started this business 7 years ago, and it didn't have a shop. It was, I would go to clients and meet them, and my beautiful wife, a hard day at work. I didn't see him at all. I woke up too early to see our boys because they were sleeping. Gave a quick kiss to my wife. She made breakfast for me, so she woke up even before me. And 12 hours later, I'll be home on 9:30, 10, and they're sleeping. The oldest might stay up, so I play with him sometimes. But every time when I walk into our home, tired, like man, I just had 2 jobs at the time. I remember as I was growing this business, and something about the aromatic you said, or the aroma. As I open it, the door, because the kitchen's basically right there as you walk in. Peace comes to mind, like
a shock to your
yeah,
brain.
like I don't know how, and I don't know what she's cooking. I just know something's on the stove and something, she's there, and I see. Again, all this happens in like 2 seconds in my head, or even faster, where I know the amount of work I did, but I know even more the work she did on taking care of our kids, because she's a homemaker, and so much work it takes into a household, and then making a couple hours of preparing food, a dish, for basically just her and I, because the kids eat a little different, so she makes separate from them. That's a whole other topic I would love to chat about too, because how, like, you know your customers, you know, because they don't like some of the food that we eat, but they love what she does. They want something different, and she does it different. But staying on that topic is, what is it like? Every day though, every day and so I know there's gonna be a smell, a beautiful smell, but it's like new every time. But I would say she makes about 10 unique dishes in her repertoire, but every time she makes them is different. It's the weirdest thing. Like, what do you equate? Yeah, what do you equate with the aroma to being the one biggest sense of just gratitude, I guess, and memory, of course.
It's love.
I hope my wife sees this. She probably will. Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah.
You feel it in your soul, you feel it in your heart. It's just something that can never be replicated twice, because every moment is something that's cherished.
I mean, something simple as crazy nuggets she would make. And I'm like, I didn't even know you can make nuggets at home. Again, I was separated, have this mindset. I feel like I'm detoxing and learning. And yeah, and again, I would say, title-wise, she never went to culinary school. She never, but this idea of just having this caring for one another. And I'm not to her level, but I find myself whenever, like for instance, when our fourth boy was, she was 7-8 months pregnant with him. It was kind of hard on her, so she kind of take a little less time of doing the household chores and taking care of the home. So I stepped in, and it's I'm overstating it. The way I stepped in is not the way she did it the best. So, but I held my own, and one of the things were the food, and you just appreciate it more. I think I was so separated from it where I'm like, man, how do you make 6 separate plates of food? I'm like, good Lord, like I thought I was good at multitasking, but just learning, like, at one point I was a king of burn, like a tortilla. I would burn a simple quesadilla. I'm like, it's a quesadilla, like cheese and tortilla on the comal, we'll call it, or on the little griddle. But there's so many other things that you're doing. It wasn't where, I just make a quesadilla for myself, that's it. So that's my big question. I was curious. The triple multitasking. So where you work at now, is the intensity high where you have to do multiple things? And obviously you did it well at the event. I saw so many different dishes, and there you are with a smile still, so it's great. How do you manage all that, moving pieces, and then being out there, of course, but when you are in the kitchen, I can imagine the intensity is even higher. Paint a picture for that for me, I'm curious.
So in terms of me being able to multitask, it's not really a matter of me always being the one cooking it or being the one to prepare it. It's me being able to kind of trust my team and let them shine just as well as I do. I may develop the menu, but they're the ones that actually bring it to life. And I can't go into much detail other than that, but I do know that it's not a one-person show. You need to have faith and trust in the people you work with and the people who are there for you. And to me, they're like family. And I put that faith in them and that trust because I know that I want them to succeed. I want them to grow. I want them to develop themselves. In order for me to ensure they do that, I have to be able to, as I say, let them fly.
You just described the progression from what you did when you were in culinary school. So you described the French teacher. You mentioned earlier how you were the instrument. And now it's just neat because you just described yourself at a different level where you progressed throughout the years. And it's just so fascinating. It just clicked in my head where you're the director now, and I know you can never be, to the level of French lady, or maybe you are, but it's a beauty to see that you pass on this art. It sounds like she passed it on beautifully to you, and now how you describe your team, now you're letting them fly. I don't know how else you would describe it other than family. I love it. Like I said, to me, I appreciate chatting with me because my biggest love of that is finding the beauty of it, and you portrayed it very well. Describing it. I feel like you opened my eyes when you said that simple answer. I'm like, what is it? Yeah, I'm trying to find it. You're like, love. I'm like, oh yeah. It just, the simplest things we try to complicate as human beings, but at the same time, something so tender, you just call it like it is. Just love.
I'm pretty blunt when it comes to certain things.
But no, like it's beautiful. Like I said, to me, I want to push that more. And again, I had, what was that dish? It was tartar, but it was another word before that you guys served at that
We
event.
did the ahi poki tartar.
Good Lord. I have to say that was my first time trying tartar. I had 3 of those little suckers. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I ate 2 by myself, and then there's another gentleman I was chatting with at the event, and he complimented when the gentleman came up to provide it for us, and he was like, man, those are good. And I'm like, you know what the hell? I'll join you in another one. But those were beautiful. And then the one with the bruschetta, or what was the
Bruschetta.
one? Bruschetta. Good Lord. Man, that I don't know what drizzle or what topping you put on it, but wow. Like I said, I'm learning, and I won't go too far on this, but with cigars, are you a cigar smoker? Or?
I do not. Actually, I believe in the culinary industry that you should never really smoke, so I've never done so because it can mess with your sense of taste. As a professional, I prefer not
Really?
to.
That's good to know. I did not know that. I do know it. There's a whole world in the cigars where you have to have a palate, but I could imagine it takes away from the actual taste palette. So that makes sense. I might have to keep that in mind. My cigar friends may find it saddening to hear, but again, at the end of the day, it's how do you get the most highest experience of that taste? And if I'm, diminishing it, why? I should ask myself. So, but as far as the comparison, apples to apples, I was saying where you learn to appreciate each cigar and how it's handmade, but I could imagine it is very equal to the food where, whether one teammate of yours or one member on your team, he's the ideas that he's putting in, and then the way you're helping and guiding him, like it all comes to this small piece of heaven. Like it is. I don't know. I think it'll be a fascination to me, or for me for years to come. But Devin, anything you want to chat? Anything else more? I'd love to hear from you, or anything you want to bring up at all?
No, pretty much good. I mean, I'm very happy that you enjoyed your time there. We're definitely going to be having more events coming in the future, so we'll look forward to that.
Yes.
Can't really dive too much more into that. But
Yeah.
Lots more good food to come.
Well, I'm a member of the chamber, and I don't know if you guys collaborate with the Baylor Club. I just became a member there, and I love how they're connected at least to the chamber, and yeah, that's how I came about to go to the event, and I can't wait. I'll definitely keep an eye on the calendar and find out more about it. But you definitely see me there. Like I said, it was a wonderful event, and then the hosting of it was just phenomenal. And let's do this again. Next time we'll have fun specific topics. I'm sure I can go on forever about the ages of food, where heck, we didn't even talk about steaks. Man.
Be careful. Once you get to me talking about stuff like that, you're gonna be talking for a few days.
Yes. So that's a good segue to depart, because yeah, it's, oh my gosh, and I would love to listen to you for those days, because man, I would love to learn more about that. So, but that has been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming by.
Appreciate it.
And I'm glad to have you here.